Forward, please.
Teacher's aide Stephanie Fair is suing her landlord, John Gonzalez, 29, for wrongful eviction and ruining her living room furniture with a water hose. Gonzalez says her story is made up.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Judge, number 151 on the calendar in the matter of Fair versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Fair, the defendant is your former landlord.
Yes.
And you're suing him for several things. First, for wrongful eviction and the cost of your relocating to a new apartment. Second, you are suing him for damage that he allegedly did to your furniture. And what's the third thing you're suing him for?
Harassment.
Oh, harassment. Okay. When did you move into his apartment, and how did you find this apartment?
I found an apartment through one of my co-workers that I work with. They went to church together. He told me one of the ministers at his church had an apartment available. The neighborhood I was living in was a very bad neighborhood. So I went and met John, and he said I could move in. I paid him. I moved in. We became friends. After we became friends, he started dropping by all the time, coming by when I have company, coming unannounced, letting people in my house when I'm not at home.
How do you know that?
Because when I got home, one of the witnesses was in my home, and he admitted he let him in.
We'll get to that in a minute. Go ahead.
And he soaked my couch with a water hose that was stored in his garage.
Just a second. How did he soak your couch with a water hose?
It was in his garage.
What was it doing in his garage?
I stored it there.
What was that part of your rental agreement?
No, I asked him, I had received another couch, and I asked him could I put it in his garage, and he said yes. He had the only key to the garage. He watched the people put it in the garage, locked the garage up. One particular night, it was a confrontation between my sister and I one night. He banged on the wall. He turned around, and he came at 1 o'clock in the morning, knocked on the door. My daughter's father was visiting, asked him, could he please come back at a reasonable hour. He got very indignant, said, no, I demand for her to come outside right now. Get your so-and-so hand off of my door, referring to my door. He told him, no, you would have to talk to her in the morning. The next day, he called me on the phone. He left a message, said I had to make other arrangements. If I did not come and speak to him, that I was going to have problems out of him, that I was going to have a problem. Then he gave me a 3-day notice when I didn't owe him any rent. And since then, it's been a nightmare.
Hold this on a second. You went on and gave me a whole long story. I asked you a question. How do you know he soaked your couch?
I seen him.
You saw him?
Yes.
It's fair. Tell me how you saw him damage your furniture.
Well, he asked one of the witnesses out there. He says, I want
Don't tell me what he asked the witness.
He went.
Tell me what you saw.
I seen him walk to the back of the house with a couple of his friends with the water hose. I walked around the other side, and he squirted it with the water hose.
Squirted what?
The couch, the whole living room set, and my table.
You saw that?
Yes, I did.
Really?
Yes, I did.
The reason I ask you, really, if that really happened, your eyes are fluttering. That's not a good sign, Miss Fair. The reason I ask you that is because usually people, when they prepare papers for court, put in the most important things, and nowhere in your papers that you prepared for me, stop looking through your documents when I'm talking to you, nowhere in your papers that you prepared did you say you observed him soaking your furniture. Nowhere.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a police report where I observed seeing him do this.
Yeah, let me see it.
I have a police report for the annoying phone calls asking me to get out.
Just a second. What was the date that you say you observed this?
6:30, June 30th.
And that was before or after this incident with your ex-husband?
This was after.
As a matter of fact, it was 2 weeks after, 2.5 weeks after.
Right. It was not my ex-husband, it's my daughter's father.
I see. When did you serve her with an eviction notice, sir?
I served her with a 3-day notice to ask her ex, who threatened me, to leave the premises. That was
What
the 13th.
date?
That was the 13th.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Sir, you want to tell me about this furniture?
Your Honor, she moved in and she had furniture. I helped her move, and this furniture was not conditioned well. It was already destroyed. Something happened in her family where she got some other furniture. Someone was going somewhere for 2 or 3 years. I believe it was jail.
Whatever.
And I allowed her to move the furniture in my garage on a temporary basis. I told her I have gas equipment back there. You cannot keep it back there more than a month. She said, no problem. I'll get it stored. The gentleman that moved it in, he moved it in. I allowed him. But what I found very odd is that he left all the pillows on the outside. I came and told her the pillows were on the outside, but the sofa and the couch itself were on the inside. So the pillows were accumulating moisture and just daily. When this event occurred and she refused to leave, I told her, I said, hey, I got to get the garage clear. I got to get some stuff in there. I asked her to move it. The gentleman that had moved it in there, I asked him to move it. He said he would do it within an hour. I left the garage wide open for an hour. He didn't. I took her couches out with friends and put it right where her pillows are in my backyard. And they're there right now. I haven't touched them.
I want to tell you something. That sounds pretty disgusting that all that stuff is in your backyard. What kind of an apartment unit is this?
It's a 2-unit, man. It's just in the backyard. I have it's a pretty spacious backyard.
So the couch pillows sat outside in the backyard?
The whole time.
How long?
Maybe 2 months.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You blew him off.
No, I did
Oh,
not.
sure you did. You blew him off, madam. You said to him, I'm cooking for the church. I can't talk to you now.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Fair wants her former landlord to pay for wrongfully evicting her and ruining her possessions with a garden hose.
Now I'd like you to tell me, Miss Fair, I've already heard the story about the furniture.
I have pictures, ma'am, to show you and the receipt for
Just
the
a
couch.
second. You had I believe that the pillows for that couch were outside in the backyard all the time.
No, they were not, and
I
have
believe him.
witnesses.
I believe him. Listen, he's under no obligation to store your furniture. He told you that he wanted to have it out. Hey, I'm speaking. Stop talking. He's under no obligation. He rented you an apartment. He did you a favor by letting you stay, letting you put your furniture in his garage. You were not paying for the garage space. You were not paying for storage. Clearly, in the beginning or the middle of the month of June, there was some sort of disagreement between the two of you, which I'm going to get to in a moment, having to do with your daughter's father. Clearly, that was a problem. It's a problem that I read about in the papers, and it's a problem that I heard just now. So then he said, get your stuff out of the garage. He can tell that to you in an hour, in a minute, in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes. He gratuitously let you use it.
But he didn't say it directly to me. He told the gentleman, he says, when is she going to get her couch out? He says, well, when I move her, which I was planning on moving, she will get it out. He stood there with his friends laughing, about 5 or 6 of his friends, went and took the couch out. Later on, he came back, and I went to the police.
I heard about the couch. I'm moving on to something else.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
I see the letters that you sent him. The letters that you sent to him clearly suggest to me that you were looking for him to give you money. That's what they say. You talk about the California Rent Board, for him to tell you why you want him to move and to discuss relocation fees. So clearly these letters of June 28th suggest to me that you wanted him to give you money to move. So what I would like you to do now is to tell me what was the nature of what you call harassment.
Okay, I have a phone harassment letter here from where he kept calling me, asking to move. We had been friends.
Just a second.
Okay.
Don't talk fast.
Okay.
Phone harassment.
Yes.
What kind of phone harassment?
Telling me that he was going to throw me and my daughter out if we didn't get out because he was upset. He was friends with my daughter's father up until my father threatened his male ego or something and told him, please, you can talk to her in the morning. 1 o'clock in the morning, it's not appropriate time to come to the house. I have documentation where he came to my house at 10:30 at night, 3 days before rent was due, asking for the money, telling me, well, if you don't have the money, then I can demand this from you. And if you don't have this, I'm going to throw you out and I'll be sure to get you out. He kept calling on the phone from 6 to 7 times from the 13th to the 17th, telling me he wanted me out. It was a nightmare for me to have to be harassed. The kids go to dump the trash. My child had to be harassed. My niece had to be harassed.
Just a second. Hold on a second. Hold on. He told you that he wanted you to move on the 13th. Just a second.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes.
He told you he wanted you to move on the 13th. Now, I would like you to tell me, Mr. Gonzalez, March, April, she moved in March.
Yes,
March, April, May, any problems?
She was always late, but I didn't care because
Always
of her
late with her rent.
She was always late, but her situation, because of her daughter, she was in a place where she witnessed a crime that scared her. I understand, I have a child myself, but to say, I'm sorry.
In March, and April, and May, other than being late in her rent, was she a reasonable tenant?
Yes, she was.
What happened, and you had no problem with her?
No.
Other than the late rent?
Other than the late fee.
What happened, sir, in June?
In June, her daughter's father had came down before I met him. He seemed to be a pretty nice guy. On June the 12th was the altercation when her daughter's father and her, the child himself, got into a physical fight. Things started sounding breaking. My daughter is six years old. I didn't want her to see this. I went over, I calmed things down, I asked him to stop. It seemed to be okay, but my daughter goes to school too, Your Honor, and I have to take her 23 miles just to get to one school, so we have to get up quite early. At 2 in the morning, she was on the phone yelling. I mean, she was
Who's
cursing.
she?
Miss Fair. She was cursing so loud. It was through the, I just banged on the wall to say, please stop. I didn't even go over there. It didn't stop. After it continued for about 2 to 3 minutes, I went over there. I told my daughter to stay here. I asked, could I speak to Stephanie? She wouldn't even come to the door. The ex-husband or whoever, he told me if I rang the bell again, he would kick my, this and that. And I didn't want to become volatile. I rang the bell and asked, could I speak to Stephanie again? He came out and greeted me face to face. Not that I can't defend myself, Your Honor. I just chose not to. I left the porch. I called her, and I asked her, I said, I'm going to need to speak to you tomorrow. I didn't even tell her she had to go. All I did was wanted to speak to her about rectifying this situation, this nuisance. I have a right to live in my own property and feel safe myself. And I was doing her, I can't believe I'm here, Your Honor. I was doing her a favor. I didn't charge her first or last rent. I didn't charge her a deposit. I lowered the rent. I bent over backwards for her. And for her to do me like this, I'm appalled.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
He has an absolute right to the peaceful enjoyment of his property and to tell you to leave.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Fair wants her former landlord to pay for wrongfully evicting her and ruining her possessions with a garden hose.
So when you called and said, I have to speak to you tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened?
She laughed at me and hung the phone up. I tried to contact her. She would walk by. The units are so close that I would try to walk and say, can I talk to you for a minute? Nothing to say to you. She would put her, like this. The thing, like that. Nothing to say to you. And her children.
Well, let me ask you this question. Miss
That is
Fair,
a lie.
just a second.
Because when he told me that me and my daughter could stay on the premises, you're telling a lie, John, because he says, okay, I'm going to tell you this. You better get over here and talk to me right now. If not, you're going to have problems out of me. When he says, if you don't talk to me right now. So when I said, look, John, I'm cooking dinners for the church. I'm selling dinners for the church. I will talk to you when I get home. No, you better come over here immediately.
Miss Fair, you had no problem with him
No.
Shh. If you had no problem with him, there's no basis for this lawsuit. So don't anticipate my question.
Okay.
You had no problem with him in March, April, and May. He didn't tell you to leave. He didn't serve you with an eviction notice. This problem started when your daughter's father came and stayed with you for a couple of days. Is that correct?
The problem, no. Because I had gotten an argument with my sister. He had never had any problem. Him and my daughter's father were friends. They socialized, they sat and ate dinners and stuff together. Okay, now what I'm saying is
I'm saying is, tell me what happened that he did to you to harass you in March.
In March, he didn't do anything.
Good. Tell me what he did to harass you in April.
Coming over to my house all the time.
That's baloney. Tell me what happened in May.
Nothing happened in May, ma'am.
Right. What happened in June when your daughter's father came to visit and there was noise coming from the apartment. Then it all started, and when he tried to rectify the situation or try to talk to you, you blew him off.
No, I did not.
Oh, sure you did. You blew him off, madam. You said to him, I'm cooking for the church. I can't talk to you now. So he served you with a notice. Then you serve him with this thing. Where is it? Where's this thing? And you say, you want me to move? Pay me money. That's what you said. Not only pay me money, But these were all the things that you said you were going to fix in the apartment that have never gotten fixed, right?
Yes.
Kitchen countertop, bedroom sliding glass, closet door, all these things that you say weren't being fixed. You were, at that point, after you were served with a notice, because he didn't want unruly people living next door to him in his house, then you started setting yourself up to get money from him. That's unreasonable.
I did not set myself up. He knew my situation. For him to harass the children, I have witnesses here that was here for him to let people into my home when I asked him not to let people into my home.
What people?
Before this
Just a
even
second.
occurred.
What people did he let into
He
your
let
home?
Benita Wade, the witness right here.
Well, this is somebody that you know?
Yes, it is.
Well, how do you know her?
She's my friend.
So what do you mean he let her into your house? Step up here. You?
Not Benita.
Who's Benita? Step up here. Did he let you into the house?
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
I was there waiting for her to get home, and she
Right.
hadn't arrived yet.
Yes.
And he said, well, I'll let you in. So he
Good.
let me
Nice.
in.
Sit down. All right. So now I've heard the couch, I've heard the harassment, and I've heard relocation fees. Now, I'm about ready to hear your side, sir. On what date did she finally move out of the apartment?
She moved out on, it was July the 20th, Your Honor.
Okay, is that correct?
No, I moved out on the 19th, and I have a receipt.
Fine. You moved out on the 19th. Did you pay rent for the month of July?
No, I didn't.
Good. You owe him money. Now, you are also suing for destruction of property. What property, sir?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. In the initial agreement there, and I think you have it there were 5 things that I said I was going to fix. Only one thing I didn't fix, and that was the kitchen countertop. I let her move in early. She had voiced...
What did she destroy, sir? Stop giving me a whole story.
I'm sorry. There's the repair to the rear bedroom door. She had someone I guess she said something's wrong with the door. She had them nail it. The whole frame is broke. All of it's broke. And the kitchen floor is, her refrigerator leaks. And I can't replace the tile. The floor is warped. And I got the best estimate I could get. They were doing me a favor by doing this. I went out and did this for her to get. I'm not trying to get any money from her
Yes,
that she
you
doesn't
are.
owe me.
Good.
I just
Listen.
want to be compensated.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to teach you a very good lesson, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good lesson is landlord, if they're smart, they get a month's rent and a month's security. That's what the security is for. Security is for this kind of damage. Because I know if I'm going to ask her, she's going to say she didn't cause any of that damage. Is that right, Mrs. Fair?
I have pictures.
that
yes, ma'am.
right?
I did not cause any
All
damages
right.
that
She's going to
wasn't
say
there
she didn't
before.
cause any damage. Listen to me, Mr. Gonzalez.
I have
Yes,
pictures of
I'm not interested in your pictures. She's going to say she didn't cause the damage. You say she did cause the damage. The only thing I know for sure is that she owes you for rent. She owes you $435. That's on your countersuit. Your lawsuit, on the other hand, Miss Fair, is, in my judgment, bogus. Totally and completely bogus. A, I find no basis for the harassment. He came home, saw this young lady who he clearly knew was part of your either friends or family circle, standing outside, and he said, I'll let her, well, you want to wait? Wait inside. Now you're complaining about that, the fact that he was being a nice guy. You had no trouble with him, and he had no trouble with you. March, April, and May. Only when your former boyfriend, the father of your daughter, was there, and there was an altercation, was there a problem. And since he couldn't get any satisfaction from you, he has an absolute right to the peaceful enjoyment of his property and to tell you to leave. He also has no obligation to take care of your stored property after he's told you to leave. And I do believe that the pillows that he said were outside on the lawn were outside in his backyard. The couch may have been inside, but the pillows were outside, tossed away like so much garbage. So I think that if there was any damage caused to your furniture, you did it. So your lawsuit is dismissed, and I'm entering a judgment for the defendant in the amount of $435. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Let's go.
I'll be back to your right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
17-year-old student Amanda Armas says classmate Regina Camacho, also 17, attacked her. Amanda is suing Regina for $5,000.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 455 on the calendar in the matter of Armas versus Camacho. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
This suit has to do with an assault
That's correct.
and damages that you are asking for
Yes.
for an assault that occurred about 2 years ago.
Yes, that's correct.
You were both in high school at the time. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you know each other in high school?
Yes, we did.
So there was a lot of gossiping. That's what this all started about.
Yes, ma'am.
And you went to her house.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you tell me why?
There's just been a lot of hatred between me and Amanda, and it just got to the point where it needed to be stopped. Not stopped like what had happened, but we needed to talk about it, and what came out of it was a fight.
That's all very soft. Why was there a lot of hatred?
Just gossip, just talking trash about each other.
Like what?
Just basically, she would tell someone that she didn't like me or that. Your Honor, I never told anyone.
You mean she told people she didn't like you?
And vice versa. I did the same about her. We didn't like each other since like the 8th grade.
Good, so you didn't like each other. What caused you to get in a car and go to her house?
On Halloween, we were out trick-or-treating, and it was a bunch of us, and we started like joking about it. Like,
Joking about what?
going to Amanda's house and confronting her. And we ended up doing that. We ended up going to her house. She came outside, and we started talking about it. We started arguing back and forth.
Well, just a minute. Did you knock at the door? How did she come outside?
2 of my friends called her outside.
And she came outside.
Mm-hmm.
She by herself?
No, she was with a friend.
She was with one friend.
Yes.
And how many friends were you with?
Quite a few. I couldn't tell you exactly.
And how did you get close enough to her to get physical?
Well, my witness confronted her first and just said that we needed to talk about a couple things.
We needed to talk.
That me and Amanda needed to talk about a couple things because of all the problems that we had between each other.
And then what happened?
And then I went out there, and we started arguing back and forth.
What do you mean you started arguing? Let's hear about
I asked her about the things that she was telling people.
that she didn't like you.
Right.
And what did she say to you?
She denied everything.
So, what was next?
And we just continued to argue back and forth, and then someone pushed her into me. And that's when we began to fight.
Someone that you were with.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you hit her.
Yes, ma'am.
You can't do that. You think that you were right?
No, I don't justify that, but there's only so much you can take from anybody.
So far, I didn't hear anything terrible. I didn't hear anything terrible.
When people are talking about you, it tends to get on your nerves. And
Get used to it. People aren't always going to say, oh, she's lovely. Miss Camacho, she's lovely. She's sweet. I like her. She's the best thing in the world since, apple pie. They're not going to say that all the time.
There's people that are going to talk about you, yes, but when they constantly do it, it's going to bother you.
So it bothers you. It bothers you. There are lots of things that bother Bird. How were you injured?
I was diagnosed with a malalignment in my back, and I had a black eye.
Excuse me. The black eye, yeah, I can take that, but I'm not the one that kicked you in the back. I'm not the one that sent you to the chiropractor.
Who did?
Someone that was with me, which later on became her friend.
But somebody that you brought there kicked her in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times were you either kicked or punched?
I don't remember. Everything went so fast, Your Honor, but I do remember it was repeatedly. If you'd like, I have x-rays here and also...
X-rays. If I could read x-rays, I wouldn't be here.
I also have pictures.
Pictures I could read. You don't want to say anything.
Yes, I do.
Oh, God. She wants to say something.
I don't think it's a good idea, Judge.
Oh, please. Why don't you step up here? Tell me who you are.
Regina's friend, Valeria Barca. I was there at the time when they fought. Told her
What do you have to contribute to this case, madam?
that she did not kick her in the back. I was there. I grabbed the girl off for her, and I was the one who broke them up.
Are you wonderful? Sit down.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
No, my daughter, she doesn't lie to me. She is very honest with me. I've taught her that.
Your daughter came home and told you exactly what happened that night, Miss Camacho, because the police were involved.
And later today,
On the way up there, she stopped at a liquor store, and all three of us were drinking up there. But
You're supposed to be the designated driver, not the designated drunk driver.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. High school student Amanda Armas is suing another student, Regina Camacho, for assault.
Is this your daughter?
Yes.
Could you step up here, please? What did you do to her after she did this?
When she came home to tell me that she had done this, I restricted her. I reprimanded her.
What did you mean you restricted her?
I restricted her for a month from going out, having any social activities, and I told her it was wrong for her to have gone to this girl's house to do what she did. At the time that she did what she did, it was at the spur of the moment. She wasn't thinking. When she came home, she understood it was wrong.
And she came home and told you about it?
Yes, she told me right away as soon as she got home that night.
Did her mother call you?
Her mother did not call me. I had no contact from them until later when the police tried to contact us. They never did call us again. But I was more than willing to settle anything that they wanted.
That's not true.
Well,
No, because I never heard from you.
I'm curious to find out what happened with the police. Could you step up here? You're her mom.
Yes.
Did you report this matter to the police?
Yes, ma'am. Right away.
What happened with the police? Because this was very fuzzy in the complaint.
Okay. When the police came, the police had stopped them already once, but they didn't know what had happened yet. So when they came to my house, they told us, and we described them to the police, and they said, oh, well, we just stopped them. They were running. We stopped them and asked them why they were running. They said, oh, somebody scared us. Right.
Well, why wasn't this complaint ever followed up?
It was.
By the police?
There is a police report.
But she was never arrested.
No.
They said that they contacted her father, and her father said that she had left to Las Vegas
Right.
and got married.
That is not true.
I mean, it was very strange to me why the police never followed up on this assault. They certainly should have. That doesn't necessarily mean she's got to go to jail for 7.5 to 15, but
Exactly.
it certainly means that there should be some indication that this is the kind of activity she's involved with, because I'm looking at the smirk on her face, right? And it's irritating. So, Mrs. Camacho, they're suing for damages. Now your daughter looks like a perfectly healthy young woman, which means that she goes to school and she should get a part-time job in the afternoon in order to pay these damages.
She is working, Your Honor.
Good. Then she's going to pay for damages because she's responsible for the injuries to this young lady. But she is going... Yes, you want to say something?
But her depression and her withdrawal from school, being afraid to go to school because she was constantly harassed, to where she, up
Just
to
a
this
second.
day, doesn't go to
Miss
school.
Armas, your mom says that you withdrew from school.
Yes.
Is that after this attack?
Yes, it was.
Why did you withdraw from school?
Because everywhere I walked down the hallways, they were always teasing me, always telling me things,
Or harassing her.
harassing me.
Who was?
Regina.
Her friends and her.
Oh,
Shh,
excuse me.
just a second. Like what?
Asking me what I'm doing next Halloween, asking me how my eye was, asking me if my back was okay. Very
But in a smirky way.
sarcastic.
Yeah, sarcastic way.
So you dropped out of school?
Yes.
You didn't drop out. You
No,
changed
she
schools?
went independent study.
How had your grades been before?
I was an honor roll student. I have been my whole life.
What?
Your Honor, I don't believe that my daughter still continued to harass her because the
You weren't
harassment...
there.
She harassed me
You
for
weren't there.
years.
Because I know I wasn't there, but I know my daughter. She doesn't lie to me. She is very honest with me. I've taught her that.
Your daughter came home and told you exactly what happened that night, Miss Camacho, because the police were involved. If the police had not been involved, your daughter would have told you nothing. And there isn't a question in my mind that after this incident was over, they continued to make her life miserable when she was in school. She and her friends. But she started it, which means they destroyed what sounds to me was a very successful career in high school. Because socially, if you're taunted when you're in high school and if it's uncomfortable, you just don't want to go back. So your daughter's going to pay for that. And you're going to pay for it. If you're smart, you'll make your daughter make up the money. But they're suing for $5,000. And I'm giving it to them. Judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back up to your right, please.
And now the next case.
Parties on Eastwood versus Orozco. Step forward, please.
18-year-old Maria Eastwood is suing her friend, 20-year-old Sylvia Orozco, for wrecking her car after a night of drinking.
Miss Eastwood, you and the defendant, according to your complaint, were out for an evening, doing a little drinking, partying, bar hopping. Is that right?
Correct.
She was the designated driver,
Yes.
and she wrecked your car.
Yes.
You want her to pay for the damage.
Yes, I do.
She says she gave you some money. Did you give her some money?
Yes, I have receipts right here.
How much did she give you?
600.
Actually, it's $750 because Carissa, my witness right here, she was there that night, and she paid for the impound because the car got impounded, and it was $175 or something like that, and I gave Carissa $150, so that went towards her car too. So it's $750.
Excuse me.
Talking about for the damage to the car. You gave her $600 for the damage. Correct?
Plus the.
I don't want to bring Krista up here. You look as if you're freezing,
No,
Miss Krista.
not yet.
Huh? Did you know you were coming to court today? Krista, hey! You think that that's an appropriate outfit to wear to court?
Yes,
Did you
actually,
dress
I did.
split, or is that the way you put it on this morning?
That's the way it is.
Better just sit right where you are.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
If you're going out with girlfriends and you're going to act like morons and drink, right? Take a cab. Take a cab.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maria Eastwood wants her friend, Sylvia Orozco, to pay damages for her crashed car after a night of drinking.
Now, how much was the car to be fixed?
The total damage, Your Honor, was
I want to see the estimate.
$2,507. I have every estimate, everything that's been paid towards the car. I have pictures, my statement, the police report, the impound, everything that you can need is all there.
Now, you want to explain to me why you think you're not responsible for all the damage to this car?
Because I was doing a favor as to her because she got drunk, and then when they told me to go get the car, I went to go get the car, they left, they took a taxi cab somewhere else. I waited for half an hour in the area thinking that they would call me, they never did. So I drove her car all the way back to Carissa's house. And then from there, finally I got a page, and that's when I drove to get her because she ended up going home with some guy. So I went to go pick her up, and that's when I got in the accident. I was trying to get her because she was drunk, she was throwing up on the street.
Tell me about the accident.
The accident was, I was driving on 880, the freeway, and I was turning onto 101, and there was a car in front of me, and she ran out of gas, and it was raining really hard, so when I pressed on the brakes, I just kept going.
So you were going too fast to stop.
I was only going 15.
You hit the other car in the rear.
Yeah.
So it was your fault.
Excuse me, Your
So
Honor.
yeah, it was
What?
my fault.
I believe that Sylvia did tell me the next day that she was driving a little too fast, but I have no proof to that documentation.
Doesn't make any difference. She damaged your car. Now, what kind of car was this?
A 91 Geo Storm.
91 Geo.
Correct.
Did you buy it new?
No, it's secondhand, but
And how much did you pay for it?
$5,500.
How many estimates did you get?
I only have one estimate listed in there, which is the body work.
Is your car currently being fixed?
Body work? No, I don't have the money to pay for the body work.
What did you do with the $600 she gave you?
Oh, she paid me 4 installments of $150, and that went towards the amount paid to fix the engine. When she wrecked the car, she wrecked the front end.
Clearly, there's a lot of damage to this car.
Yeah.
The estimate that she got for $2,500 is not outrageous, considering the kind of damage that you did to
Yeah,
this
but
car.
I mean, she gave me the one estimate from the bodywork, which was $630, and she never gave me anything else after that. So I mean,
Did you tell her how much it was?
Yeah, she told me, but how do I know?
Things happen gradually. I thought when the car first broke down, it was towed to a shop.
All right, I don't want to go into it. Listen.
It's a long
Listen.
story. But if she was getting
But I
money,
mean, I
if
was
she was
trying
going
to
to
pay
pay
for
me
it. I
money,
got 2 jobs
she
to
should
pay
have
for
asked,
it.
Your Honor, she should have asked For proof, she should have. I offered.
I asked you proof, and you said you were going to bring it to me
do me a
when
favor.
you pick
Could
up
you ask them to be
money.
quiet, please?
Quiet.
I'm really
Thank
tired
you.
today. $2,500 based upon what I see. Usually, when you come to court, you should have 3 estimates, not just 1.
I'm sorry.
Do you understand?
This is my first time in court.
How long ago did this happen?
No, November 22nd.
23rd.
Were you pretty drunk that night? Right here.
I drank too much, past my limit.
How
I
old
know
are
the
you?
limit. 19.
How old were you then?
18.
You didn't drink at all?
I had some during when we first left. On the way up there, she stopped at a liquor store, and all 3 of us were drinking up there. But
You're supposed to be the designated driver, not the designated drunk driver.
I wasn't drunk.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
And how old were you then?
20.
Let me tell you something. There is nothing less feminine, less attractive than a young woman drunk. Nothing. Nothing that I could think of right away, anyway. I'm sure there are things that are less attractive.
Tell me about it.
Of course, it slits up into your navel is pretty unattractive in court. In any event, you were supposed to be the designated driver. You didn't do the right thing. You were certainly older than
I
she was
felt
by
like
a couple
I was
of...
doing the right thing.
No,
I
you
was
weren't.
helping
If you're
her
the
out.
designated driver, madam, you're not supposed to have any alcohol. Designated driver is the person who's not supposed to drink any alcohol.
But I wasn't going to be the designated driver because I have a restricted license. I knew I couldn't drive. I never said to her, yes, I'll be your designated driver. She just kept saying she wanted me to drive.
$2,500. She gave you $600. That leaves $1,900. Now, I want to tell you something. I think that because you own a car at age 18, you have a certain responsibility. And one of the responsible things that you have to do as a car owner is to make sure that the car is not used in an irresponsible way. And the only way you can do that, madam, is if you're not drunk. If you want to drink, take a taxi cab. You used your car. What?
I took the responsible action, and I decided if I'm going to drink, I'm not going to drive. I think that's a responsible decision at my age.
But you knew I
There are
couldn't drive.
55-year-olds that go out and drink and still attempt to drive. I knew if I'm going to drink tonight, I'm
But
not
she
going to
knew
drive.
I had a restricted license,
No,
so
I
why
did
did
not
she
know.
put it up
Hey.
on me?
Excuse me, I did not know. If I did, I wouldn't have.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You also gave her $150, is that right, to get the car out of impound? Nah, I'm going to
Actually,
give you credit for that.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Excuse me, that's included in the $600.
No, it's $750.
You gave me 4 payments.
I gave you 4 payments. I paid Carissa $150 for the impound because Carissa paid for the impound. So
Well,
that's a total
I
of
didn't receive that.
$750.
Just a
That's
second, but you had to get your car out of the pound,
Okay,
didn't you?
that's fine.
You had to get your car out of the pound. In total, if I were to find that she was responsible for the entire amount, she would have to give you $1,750. But I find that you were at least partially responsible for going out, getting drunk as a skunk so that you couldn't drive your own car. So I'm going to give you $1,500. Judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Back row to your right, please.
Judge Judy will... 26-year-old antique dealer Dana Ferguson is suing her father, businessman Frank Ferguson, 61, for stealing antiques and artwork. Frank is countersuing his daughter for her latest unpaid loan.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 469 on the calendar in the matter of Ferguson versus Ferguson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Miss Ferguson, this is your father.
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor.
And you claim that your father has some valuable pieces of antique and paintings that belong to you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
And he said that he made a loan to you. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
One of many that he's made, but the last loan was for $2,000. When was that made, sir?
That was made on May 23rd, 1995.
And that these things were given as collateral for that loan.
No, Your Honor.
Is that right?
That's right.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so why don't you tell me how your father came into possession of your things?
I had purchased a home, and I rented a truck. The truck broke down. I took care of an elderly stroke patient 6 days, 6 nights. I was out of time, out of desperation. I had rented trucks many other times.
Come on, just tell me. Let's get to it, please.
I'm sorry. Anyway, I asked him. He agreed.
Asked your father?
Yes.
To help
He owns
you?
a trucking company. He agreed. I never saw my things again.
That's not what you say in your complaint, madam. That's not what you say in your complaint. You don't say that you didn't get any of your things. You say some things were missing.
The things that he took from his truck, I never received.
You want to respond to that, please?
Yes, Your Honor. I own a trucking company. Dana lost her house in Woodland Hills, or Agora Hills, she got thrown out. She asked me to store this material. I had stuff in my warehouse for over 3 years. She bought a house after she had a settlement. I sent 7 loads of her stuff. I give her a little Toyota pickup truck to take a walk through my warehouse, to take anything that she thought was hers.
How much after the move did she come to do the walkthrough and you sent 7 loads of stuff to her house?
It was within weeks.
And how long ago was this?
Oh, this was 2 years ago.
Is that when you moved?
No, Your Honor.
When did you move?
I moved in October of 1994. He
Okay,
continued
just a
to
second.
Put me off.
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
1994
Yes, Your
is
Honor.
when this happened. So we're now talking 4 years ago almost, right? 4
Yes,
years.
Your Honor.
Now, he says that he stored stuff for you.
He did not store. There was never permission to store. I never...
He says that he sent 7 loads of stuff to your house.
It never came to my house.
Just let me understand this. This happened in 1994.
Yes.
Right. Now, when did you borrow $2,000 from your father?
I borrowed money from him on May 23rd, 1995. I was under the impression he would still relinquish all of my items to me. I had no inclination that he would ever. What father would steal from their daughter?
Just a second. He's not suing you. You're suing him.
You know what father would steal from their daughter?
I'm not sure whether he did. What I want to know, madam, is why, if he had your stuff in 1994, and you didn't get your stuff in 1994, so you were angry, I assume, right?
You know what? I wasn't angry. He kept telling me that I would get it. He couldn't get a truck. I kept offering trucks. It was like one excuse. You don't know this man. One excuse.
Well, I don't know him, but you know
another.
him. Listen to me. I don't know him, but you know him well enough. You borrowed another $2,000
I didn't know him like
from
that.
him. Tell me about the $2,000 that you borrowed from him.
Well, he must have trusted me to do that. I trusted him.
Ms. Ferguson,
I trusted
why
him.
did you borrow $2,000 from him?
I borrowed it out of necessity.
Well, for what? What did you tell him? Tell me about it. You called him?
I called him. He said he's going to need more copies of my appraisals of my pictures. He wanted something else as collateral. He said that what he had.
Just a second.
He
We didn't
couldn't
get to the collateral yet.
Okay.
You called him up and said, I need money.
Right. He said.
Well, tell me about the conversation, madam, slowly.
Okay, I'm trying to.
Called him up and you said, I need money. Right? And did he ask you what for?
Yeah. Yes.
And what did you say?
I said, well, after purchasing my home, I was in between jobs. May I borrow this? When you give me the rest of my stuff, I will, if I need to sell it, I'll sell it. Because he had everything I owned. But I trusted him. He's my father. What reason would I not have to trust him? I wouldn't lie about this. There's no reason for me to. He's taken my whole life away.
I'm still not following your story, madam. You want to tell me about this?
Okay, it's not the first time she needed money. She's an older lady now. I figured she needed responsibility. Last time she needed money, she needed $3,500. I told her to go to her attorney that she's handling the case. I'll give her the 30. She had a suit for damage. She got hurt in an accident. I love this girl terribly, but I want her to grow up and take responsibility. So I says, I'll give you the $3,500, but you've got to make sure I get it back. I have young children. I've got to make sure they're provided for. The court case was settled. I got my $3,500. Everything was fine. I get a phone call. She said, Dad, I need money. I can't make my payments on my house. I need $2,000. I says, Dana, I will not give you any money unless I have something in collateral. By this time, I had nothing. So I met her at this restaurant. I was with my nephew and one of my children, my younger ones. Let her make the note out. I give her the 5 $100 cashier's checks plus $1,500 in cash. She went out to her car, unloaded the stuff in the
Unloaded what stuff?
Stuff. I mean, she had a statue, some paintings rolled up. I had that as collateral. I didn't even know if it was worth anything. I just said I want her to have responsibility. I can no longer just give her things. She has to take responsibility.
Okay. Good. Stop playing with the papers.
I'm sorry.
Stop playing with papers.
Pardon me.
A couple weeks later, she calls me up. I have to have my stuff. I've got to sell it. I said, Dana, you've left it for collateral. You've left it for collateral, honey. You've got to take responsibility.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm humiliated by him. How embarrassing to have a father like this. I can't even walk into an art gallery anymore.
And later today,
it has cuffs, and so where I threw up was on this side, but when they dry cleaned it, they uncuffed it. Some throw up was still here.
How lovely.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dana Ferguson claims her father stole antiques and artwork. He says the pieces were collateral for a $2,000 loan.
I was at Lake Mead 4th of July weekend. All the families invited. All my daughters and my youngest daughter came up. Mark and his fiancée was there. She got sick, and they went home early. I get a phone call that Dana, her boyfriend, and his boyfriend's mother broke into the house.
Who did you get a phone call from?
Mark.
Mark, step up here. Okay, you're out on this trip. Is your father?
Yes.
My stepfather.
Stepfather?
I was on vacation at Lake Mead.
You went home early?
Yes.
And what happened when you went home?
The next morning, we were home, received a knock on the door. It was Dana, her boyfriend. She wanted to come into the house and get her stuff. I said, I know nothing about this. My stepfather, Frank, was on vacation. You'll have to wait until he gets back. I tried to close the door at that point. They pushed the door in, pushed me to the ground, roughed me up a little bit, came in and started taking things. I yelled at my fiancée to call the cops. She did. They came. The cops stopped them from taking the stuff, and they left.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Your Honor, it's twisted.
Did you go to the house?
Yes, after I was told everything was sold.
Just a second. I don't care what you were told. Did you go to the house when your father wasn't home?
Yes, I was instructed to do so by my mom.
I don't care what your mom told you.
I know. You're right.
Police were called?
I wanted them to arrest me because then somebody would defend me. Somebody would have seen that all my things were there.
Listen, I believe your father, madam. I believe your father that he lent you $2,000. You acknowledge that he gave you $2,000 and he took things as collateral.
Have you seen the note, Your Honor?
What note?
This is the note. It only states 2 items.
Let me see.
And here's what he sent me only 2 months later. Okay.
Okay. This says that you have 2 items. So as held as collateral. And do you still have these 2 items in your possession?
She broke into the house and took one of those 2.
Which one did she take?
The statue.
Is that the bronze?
Yes.
Your Honor.
Mother and child?
Yes. She only had one of those.
Your Honor.
And the other one is an Erte?
Yes. I had it at the time.
Okay.
Luckily, the police made her put it back.
Your Honor.
What?
The van was searched. Everything was taken out. I wasn't allowed to... nothing was relinquished back to me. Nothing. I didn't receive anything. I didn't take anything out of his house. I never asked for anything that belonged to him. I was willingly going to give him that $2,000. I had asked him, please allow for me to give you the $2,000 so I may have everything that belongs to me.
So why didn't you give him the $2,000?
Your Honor.
Who are you?
My name is Oscar Dustam. I'm a witness.
What did
And
you see?
He never wanted to collect the $2,000. My family and I collected the money, and at that time, I spoke to Dana and tried to get in touch with her father, and he refused to get her things back.
Just a second, sir. Did you ever have a conversation with him?
No.
So you were going to get $2,000 and give it to her?
Yes.
But she never gave it to her father?
No, he refused.
But did you hear him say, I refuse?
Over the intercom, Your Honor.
Are you her boyfriend?
It's on a tape.
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, I'm her boyfriend.
Are you the one who broke into the house when he wasn't
I
home?
did not break into the house, Your Honor.
broke in.
Are you the one that went into the house to retrieve property?
No, Your Honor. I stepped into the door, and by the time this gentleman, the stepson, came, he was feeling bad, and he came and he tried to push us back, and everything started just going
Just a second.
chaos.
Just a second. What right do you have to be in his house?
I was not in his house. I was at the door with her.
What right do you have to be in his house?
I was permitted to come into the corridor.
By whom?
By him. He allowed me, he opened the door and allowed me in. And once I was in, then he came after me.
What were you going there to do?
I had my box with all of my receipts, and I said, please, just give
You were
me
going there to take property.
to take what belongs to
You
me.
were going to his house
To take
when
what
he wasn't
belongs
home
to
to take
me.
property. Is that what you were doing, madam?
There was somebody in the home. I would have...
Listen. This is baloney.
Can
Listen
you
to me.
please see my certificates?
I don't want to see your certificates.
He victimized me because he knew he can get away with it.
I
He's
don't
done
believe
this to a number of people. You don't know this man.
I don't know him, and I don't know you.
unfortunately, I know
Hey,
him now.
listen to me. I don't know him, and I don't know you. All I know is the story that you're telling me doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. And common sense usually is right. It doesn't make sense that your father, who you asked for help, took your property and stole it. And after he stole your property, you called him up and asked him for money. He lent you money, and he wanted collateral. And you gave him collateral, and then when he wasn't home, this makes sense, when he wasn't home, you, your boyfriend, and your boyfriend's mother went into the house without his permission.
Everything was there, Your Honor.
It was there. I described everything I owned.
We didn't even have to go into the house.
I
Everything
thought
was-
you said, sir,
No.
that you
wouldn't have had
listen to me. How could you stand there and tell me, sir, that everything was there when you just told me 2 seconds ago that you never got past the front door?
Please
Everything
don't make
was
him right
hanging
again.
on the walls. Your Honor, you can see pictures of her.
I don't know what this is about. I don't know the history of this family. Clearly, it's a pathological situation.
I would never lie, Your Honor. These things belong to me. I don't want what doesn't belong to me. I never asked for what doesn't belong to me.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
She doesn't have to have your coat with your DNA on it, right?
Yes.
You have the coat with your DNA on it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dana Ferguson claims her father stole antiques and artwork. He says the pieces were collateral for a $2,000 loan.
According to your father, has always been this way. Is that right?
No, Your Honor. He'd been through therapy.
What about you?
I had to.
For a long time?
On and off. Yeah. But nothing to, because you have this as a father, of course.
Listen to me. If you have this as a father, and if you've been in therapy for years because you have this for father, you don't call and ask him for money. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Well, you know, there comes a time you got to stand on your own 2 feet,
You're
madam.
right.
You're
I bought my
absolutely
own
right,
house.
so you got to stop.
I moved out when I was 18. I was the only one with a relationship with this man.
Well, you don't have one anymore. It's too bad. I am not convinced,
too
madam, that he
bad.
stole your property. And, sir, you have the collateral.
Yes, ma'am.
Do what you want to do with it. That's all.
I sold it to pay the doctor bills.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This
Thank
is
you.
so wrong.
We are.
You didn't win again. You scum. I thought there would be justice in this world. I really thought somebody would come to my aid. There's a day it's going to come, and
Yeah.
he's going to have his day.
And I'm so sad. I've lost everything that I own. I'm humiliated by him. How embarrassing to have a father like this. I can't even walk into an art gallery anymore.
Please.
53-year-old Janet Clifton is suing her daughter-in-law, 27-year-old Tina Clifton, for child care costs and attorney fees incurred while Tina was in jail.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 449 on the calendar in the matter of Clifton versus Clifton. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Well, this certainly sounds like a family tragedy. Mrs. Clifton, this is your daughter-in-law, your son's wife?
Yes, ma'am.
You claim that you advanced to her or loaned her $2,500 for a lawyer when
Yes,
she was
ma'am.
incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
That she has had a serious history of substance abuse.
Yes, ma'am.
As a result of that, you are caring for her children, and you also want $2,500 for the care of her children.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how long your son and daughter-in-law were married.
They've been married approximately 4 years. They have 2 little boys, one 3, 1 year and a half old. She moved into my home in October, and I didn't really realize how bad her problem was until...
When you say she moved into your home, where was your son?
He was living there also, already. He had moved in September. The boys moved in October. She moved in around the 1st of November.
Was it after she had moved in with you that she was incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now tell me how this lawyer's bill came about.
Her problem started with me, that I knew that she had a bad problem, was in December and January, where she would want to get high or take off and drink, and she'd climb out the window. We reported her a missing person one time. She was gone for like 5 or 6 days. And through the whole month of January, I think she left the house like 3 to 4 times and didn't say where she was going, when she would be back. Didn't even tell us she was going. One day she climbed out my bathroom window.
Would you tell me about the lawyer, please?
Then she got locked up.
When?
February the 18th of '97.
Okay.
So I had gone to Lancaster to her court hearings like 3 to 4 times, and they were putting her in state prison. So she calls me and tells me to go talk to her previous lawyer about seeing if they could not get her into a rehab place or getting her out of jail.
She was, in fact, in jail at that time when she called you.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you say a previous lawyer, she had a previous arrest history?
Yes, she's got 2 felony marks against her already.
For drugs?
One for, I don't know what they call it. She wrote some kind of a check and deposited it into her bank account.
Okay.
2 or 3 days later, drew the money out. The bank noticed that it was not a true bank account.
Okay.
Okay. That's 1 felony mark. June, I think it was, of '96. She got picked up for possession.
Of drugs?
Right.
Okay, and this
They locked her up 2 weeks then.
All right, so the attorney who had represented her in these previous matters was the attorney she wanted you to go to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you knew who that attorney was?
Yes, ma'am.
So you went to the attorney, and what was his retainer?
His retainer was $2,450, $2,450.
And how much did you, in fact, pay him?
On March 4th, I paid him $1,500. I have the receipt right here.
Okay.
And in May 6th, I paid him another $550. Here's both the receipts.
Okay, so let's deal with try to keep it simple. Let's talk about the attorney's fees first. In your answer, you will say that you are not responsible for these attorney's fees. You want to tell me why?
I got incarcerated because I violated my probation because I had a dirty test back in '96. So I knew I was going to get some time in February when I went. And there's nothing a lawyer could do for me that a public defender couldn't. But I guess my husband kept telling my mother-in-law that he wanted to get me out because I was in there longer than they figured I should have been. And she called me and asked me what the name of the lawyer was. and what the number was, and so I gave it to her. I did not call her and ask her because I can't afford it. There's no way I can pay for it. That's why I didn't ask her to get a lawyer, because I just wanted a public defender. Just like,
if I believe you that you didn't call her and ask her to contact this other lawyer, what did you think she wanted the lawyer's name and telephone number for?
because my husband asked her to get it for her, so because he wanted her to get a lawyer to get me out of there, because he was missing me, and he said he'd do anything to get me out of
Now,
jail.
let me ask you
But
this
I knew I
que-
couldn't get out. I had to.
Now, let me ask you this question. So you're saying that she called you and asked you for that.
No,
Is
I
that right?
called her, and she asked me, when I was talking to her, she asked me the name.
Well, now you just changed it. You said she called you and asked you.
No, she can't call me in jail.
Of course
I
she
called
can't.
her.
Of course she can't. Did this lawyer, in fact, represent you?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah, he took the place of the defendant, or I mean the public defender.
So you knew that this lawyer was a retained lawyer, was being paid, correct?
Yeah.
And you didn't say to the lawyer, I can't afford to pay you, correct?
No.
Good. So that takes care of the lawyer's fees. Lawyer's fees you owe her. Now, let's take care of the rest of it, because the rest of it I'm not so sure about.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You have a son who you let live in your house.
Right.
And do absolutely nothing.
Right.
Well, listen to me. Get him out of bed in the morning and tell him he's got to get a job.
And later today,
Well, why don't you give her her money back?
Pardon me?
What word didn't you understand?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Clifton wants her daughter-in-law, Tina Clifton, to pay for attorney fees and child care while Tina was in jail.
What else do you think she should pay you for?
I presume the child care, because I have been taking care of her children for the last year and
Where's
a
your
half.
son?
He's just as bad as she is.
Well, listen.
He
madam,
is. He's just as bad as she is.
Listen to me. Do you have legal custody of her children?
No, ma'am. But
All
as
right.
soon as I get through here today, I'm going to go try.
All right. Let me explain this to you. Right now, I assume that in your home, you live there. Is this your husband?
Yes, this is my husband.
You, your husband, your son, who's good for nothing.
Yeah.
And your 2 grandchildren.
Right.
Right? She doesn't live there.
No. Has not been since October.
Fine.
I want to get your attention. I'm sorry, Judge.
What?
I moved out of there because when I got out of recovery, Roddy was still into the same stuff, and then I almost messed up. And so I was like, I had to get out of there because I'm changing my life. I go to NA. I go to counseling. She won't let me see my kids. I have the phone bills of all the times I've tried to call. She wouldn't even let me talk to my husband when I tried to get her.
That's not so.
Miss Clifton, how long have you been involved with drugs?
When I was 19.
And how old are you now?
27.
And she's got 2.
I'm changing my life. That's why I moved out of there. I left my marriage.
Miss Clifton, before you get your kids back, once the courts get involved, they're going to screen you for drugs if they're smart on a random basis twice a week. That's what I used to do. And they can also look at me. They can also random test you for drugs by taking a hair follicle test, which will indicate to the court, based upon the drugs that build up in your hair, which aren't released. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I do, because I do that Discovery Zone when you work there.
Oh, okay. Well, you haven't been in inpatient rehab for a while now, is that right?
I've been going to my NA, and I have to go to an outpatient now.
Okay. And when was the last time you were drug tested? Look at me.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Right. And I'm not going to get into whether or not you've had any kind of slippage. You know what I mean by slippage?
I understand. I know what you mean.
Okay. Because I sort of have a nose for that. It's one of the things that you get when you sit in the family court for a very long time. So I don't think that right now you are in a position, as you indicate in your answer, of having custody of your children back.
But I'm
not yet.
I'm doing everything right. I mean.
No. You and I both know that if you went for a hair follicle test today, it would not be good. Miss Clifton, it would not be perfect, right?
Unless if you count back in October or September when I got out of rehab.
Let us assume that I believe that. So after you got out of rehab, you slipped.
Yeah, that's why I
Of
moved
course.
out.
And
What?
she's pregnant with another baby.
Shh. Ta-ta. So you're not ready for your kids yet. But I'm leaving you alone for a second. You have a son who's much closer to you. Right?
Right.
Who you let live in your house.
Right.
And do absolutely nothing.
Right.
Well, listen to me. Get him out of bed in the morning and tell him he's got to get a job.
I've done that.
You know? A job, or else to get his behind out of your house.
He works
Because
for
then...
them. He was working for my husband.
They
My
pay him
husband
under
and
the
I have
table
a-
to get AFDC still.
My husband and I have our own plumbing business. He was doing a couple hours a day just to make ends meet for the family and to help support the 2 children. Well, now he can't even do that. He will not get up and go to work. He stays up all night long and he sleeps all day. We've had the police out there several times saying that I have to have him evicted from my own home.
Absolutely right. Listen to me.
Because
If
they
he's-
won't do anything.
Listen to me, madam. You want to step up here with your wife, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
If that's the way your son chooses to live, let's be very honest with each other. If that's the way your son chooses to live, and he's an adult, you're not going to be able to do much about that. But if you are responsible people, and I assume that you are responsible people, and you have these 2 little grandbabies that you are interested in, your son isn't staying up all night and sleeping all day because he's an owl. He's staying up all night and sleeping all day because he's using drugs, which means he's using drugs around your grandchildren in your home, which means you got to kick him out.
That's right.
Period. End of discussion.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I want to tell you something. That makes me feel really good.
And later today,
He called me not to take photos like he promised he would after I gave him $1,500, but he would call up and ask me if I wanted to go riding on his Harley Davidson.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Clifton wants her daughter-in-law, Tina Clifton, to pay for attorney fees and child care while Tina was in jail.
He's using drugs around your grandchildren in your home, which means you got to kick him out. And the way to do that is do not stop at go, do not stop for anything. From court today, you go to the local domestic relations court or family court in your jurisdiction, which is where?
Van Nuys.
Right. And you petition the court for custody or guardianship of your grandchildren. And you do that because your son is an inappropriate caretaker. And right now, your daughter-in-law, despite the fact that she has reasonable intentions, perhaps, for the future, is still, in my judgment, not ready to take care of her children, that they would be at risk.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what you have to do. And then you can sue for support from your son, from your daughter-in-law. If neither one of them are prepared to pay support, the courts, as far as I'm concerned, can throw their keisters in jail. If you are collecting welfare for the grandchildren, are you now?
Well, he is.
They are, but it's hard getting that money to use for the
right.
children,
So-
you understand.
Oh, I understand exactly what the story is, which means that I am a taxpayer, as is Bird. So as taxpayers, we are writing checks to your son, welfare, for his 2 children. And he's taking the welfare money and sticking it up his nose.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I want to tell you something. That makes me feel really good.
Yeah. Makes me feel
really
real
good.
too.
So, Mrs. Clifton, I am
have
awarding... Listen to me. Do I need to hear any more?
Yeah, you just need to hear this one thing. I have a tape here that of Christmas morning that Grandpa and I did Christmas for
Neither
the 2
parent.
babies. Neither one of these parents were there.
She doesn't let
She
me go
never
there.
even called. I've got a whole book here on a whole year
Mrs.
of how many
Clifton,
times she
Mrs.
called.
Clifton, I understand your frustration, madam.
Yeah.
Listen to me. I understand your frustration. There are really, in this case, 2 real innocents, and these are your 2 little grandboys.
That's right.
You're innocent to the extent that, well, you raised this boy.
Yeah.
All right, and I don't know whether anything had to do with in his rearing. resulted in the way he turned out, but he clearly turned out not so terrific.
Because they used to be on drugs. Because they used to be on drugs.
Well, I want to tell you something. I look at both of them now. They don't appear to be on drugs now.
Not for the last 10 years,
clean.
Tina.
They don't give me the chance that I'm getting
But
clean.
that's
Just listen to me.
help these
Mrs. Clifton, Mrs. Clifton Jr., if you were a smart lady and not selfish, but thinking only about your children, your two boys have the following option right now. They can stay with their grandparents, or they can go to foster care with strangers. That's their option. Now, I would assume that your boys have been through enough tumult in their lives, through enough uprooting, seen enough in their young lives to last them a lifetime between you and your husband. So right now they are at least in a relatively stable environment as soon as they get the son out of the house. So if you're really serious about putting your life in order, then you have to be drug-free. Not for 3 months, not for 6 months, maybe for 2 years. Because it's very unfair for you to say, well, I want to take my kids now. I've been clean for 3 months. You've been using drugs for years. And you have relapses periodically. I don't know how often. All I know, are you pregnant now?
Yes, I am.
Well, all I want to tell you is this. If you're pregnant now and you use drugs, your baby's going to be born positive tox for whatever you use. And I don't know if your drug of choice is cocaine or heroin. And I don't know if your 2 other children were born with drugs in their system. Were they?
Here's a letter.
No, just a second.
No, because they would have gotten taken away from me.
Just a second. Were either of your 2 sons born with drugs in their system?
They were not born with drugs in their system.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today.
What'd you do for her for $1,500?
I haven't done anything at this point.
Perfect. All I'm telling you now is if you continue to use drugs, this baby is going to be born with drugs in its system. So I suggest you start getting your act in order for real.
I am.
Yeah. It's a lot of talk. It's a lot of talk. In any event, you owe your in-laws $2,500 for your attorney's fees. That's it.
Thank you.
I have given you my best advice.
I'll take it.
That's all.
Why does I excuse you? May step out.
Thank you.
Back, go to your right, please.